Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office? How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership are we going to...
Mel Gibson has been urging every person in Los Angeles with a spine to vote Gavin Newsom out, and not quietly. His criticism stems from what he calls Newsom's disgraceful handling of the recent protests involving ICE. And this time, it didn't sound like a one-off outburst. This was sustained, public condemnation, and many believe it finally exposed the political ineptitude and cowardice Gibson has accused Newsom of for years. From every angle, every clip, every blistering critique, the message was clear. If you want the full breakdown of what went down, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Newsom's mismanagement of California ever since he took office is widely discussed. The chaos in the state is obvious to anyone paying attention. Even one of his longtime allies, Bill Maher, has publicly broken with him. Below are Maher's own comments regarding Newsom's leadership failures, and they make for intense viewing.
But Governor, you were the poster boy for a lot of this stuff. I see today the Trump administration they talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what, that's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch.
So it shouldn't have surprised anyone that Gibson went after Newsom so aggressively. What did shock people was the sheer intensity of the critique. This wasn't a mild disagreement. It was a full-on verbal barrage. A few months ago, Newsom faced one of the toughest leadership tests of his tenure. And, critics say, he failed spectacularly. Supporters felt a collapse of leadership with no accountability in sight. And Gibson wasn't alone in his condemnation. Joe Rogan jumped into the conversation too, and together they tore into Newsom in blunt, unfiltered terms. It gets intense. So if you're ready for the details, fasten your seatbelt.
I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so...
Let's be honest. Gavin Newsom's hair might look better than ever since moving to California, but that's about the only thing that's thriving under his leadership. Mel Gibson's criticism? Spot on. Consider this. At a time when wildfires were ravaging the state, over 80% of California's water supply was going to almonds. Not emergency response, not firefighting, not anything remotely helpful, just almonds. Meanwhile, Newsom was busy with salon visits, poor agricultural management, and zero planning for disasters. Basic competence? Apparently optional. Californians were left with dry land, destroyed homes, and no meaningful government response.
Blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there, talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? President Trump called in the National Guard and the Marines to help with these destructive barbarians.
And Gibson wasn't alone. John Voight also stepped in, and he didn't hold back. He questioned Newsom's rumored 2028 presidential ambitions, and for good reason. If this is how he handles California, what would he bring to the White House? Escalating homelessness? Rising crime, crushing taxes, and inadequate emergency responses, more photo ops, more virtue signaling, and still no tangible results. California, once one of the nation's most powerful states, is now turning into a cautionary tale. Voight is sounding the alarm, and people should pay attention. As things stand, Newsom looks dangerously unprepared to be the Democratic Party's future leader.
Chaos for the people. You're a disgrace. You're nothing but a lying dog for the hopes of becoming the president one day. And God is my witness, truth will prevail because of your faults and your incompetence for California's failures. We the people, I stand with Donald Trump to make this state great again. But we the people choose Donald Trump to save America, and we're in danger with threats from terrorists now, and we must protect our country. This has now become good against evil, and evil will lose because our President of the United States of America was sworn in to protect this nation's greatest gifts: freedom, safety, prosperity. And he will, because he is the greatest president since.
John Voight also praised President's decision to deploy the National Guard to Los Angeles. When local authorities failed, the action saved lives, protected businesses, and restored order. Voight calls it a necessary move and a stark reminder of Gavin Newsom's inability to manage a crisis. But Newsom's presidential prospects aren't just threatened by incompetence. His obsession with woke politics is equally damaging. Instead of focusing on public safety, crime, or inflation, he spends time on performative activism and virtue signaling. Under his leadership, divisiveness beats unity, and ideology outweighs common sense. That may play well in echo chambers, but voters, especially cautious ones, are starting to see it as a recipe for national disaster.
Governor right now of California, how would you be handling the ongoing crisis that the state's facing?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you are in a leadership position like that, is that you are inclusive and that you work together with everybody. And so it means that you have to work together with local government, the state government, and the federal government. They have to work together rather than fighting each other. Fighting each other's agendas and all that stuff, that doesn't do good to anybody.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is equally frustrated. The former governor criticized Newsom's refusal to assist federal investigators during the Los Angeles unrest. He wasn't just hesitant when riots erupted, he opposed federal action, criticized and even dared the administration to arrest him. That's not leadership. Public safety was compromised for political theater. Schwarzenegger insists that the right course was simple: cooperate with federal officials, restore order, and put Californians' interests above ego or partisan games. By that measure, Newsom completely failed.
Legal. That is the important thing, So you gotta do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America, and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house, I'm a guest, and I will do everything I can. Keep things clean, and to make my bed, and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't...
Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't hold back when discussing the Los Angeles demonstration. He places responsibility squarely on undocumented immigrants for entering the country illegally. In his view, there would have been no chaos, panic, or fears of deportation if they had followed the law. Arnold draws from personal experience. At 21, he arrived in America with nothing and worked tirelessly to build a life. He rejects sentimental or performative approaches to immigration, contrasting sharply with politicians seeking approval over results. For Schwarzenegger, America's strength comes from respecting the rule of law, and ignoring it only weakens the nation. The system is being abused, not flawed. Respect and discipline, not chaos, should guide immigration. Vice President J.D. Vance's intervention only amplified tensions.
And Karen Bass, by treating this city as a sanctuary city, have basically said that it is open season on federal law enforcement. They have treated Border Patrol and border enforcement as somehow an illegitimate force instead of what they are, which is the American people's law enforcement trying to enforce the American people's laws. So when Gavin Newsom encourages violence and rioting, when he encourages people to get in the face of our great Border Patrol officers, he is absolutely endangering the lives of federal enforcement. He's absolutely endangering the lives of of mothers and daughters and fathers and sons who have been sent here to do a simple thing: enforce the law. And thank God they're willing to do it despite the fact that the local leadership of this community has made it harder on them and has in fact endangered their lives as they go about to.
Gavin Newsom's support of violent demonstrators and illegal immigrants did far more than send the wrong message. It put the entire city at risk. Innocent lives were endangered, property was destroyed, and streets descended into disorder. Violence at the protest was fueled by a governor prioritizing political optics over public safety. True leadership isn't about making noise or scoring points. It's about protecting people. Instead, Newsom's decisions jeopardized Californians to score political points and attack president, exposing poor judgment and misaligned priorities. By the time Newsom apologized, the damage was already done.
In California, it isn't slowing down. The games are not slowing down. Newsom did eventually come out and apologize. If you want to go on Twitter, Rob, and just go to the apology video that he came out eventually. This is, I think, 4 or 5 days later. On day 1, I asked him, I said, are you going to come out and do this? Watch how he's finally wanting to have his people be responsible. Go ahead, Rob.
You incite violence. I want to be clear about this. If you incite violence or destroy our communities, you're going to be held to account.
Okay.
That kind of criminal behavior will not be tolerated. Full stop. Already more than 220 people have been arrested, and we're reviewing tapes to build additional cases. And people.
By the time Gavin Newsom expressed regret, it was already too late. The chaos had unfolded, much of it preventable with immediate action. Instead, he hesitated, made poor choices, and let the situation spiral. This combination of arrogance and indecision makes him unfit to lead alongside the president. Newsom governs not for the people, but for the cameras, motivated by image over results. The needs of Californians are secondary to his own political ambitions. He is crafty, evasive, and self-centered. America doesn't need another slick talker. It needs responsible, effective, and resilient leadership, qualities Newsom has consistently failed to demonstrate. His tenure as California's governor has been a masterclass in mismanagement and political theater, from putting ambition over service to prioritizing chaos over law and order. Critics from Mel Gibson to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bill Maher, and John Voight have all called out his hypocrisy and incompetence. Fake virtue signaling and delayed apologies cannot undo the damage. If Newsom pursues the presidency in 2028, Americans should be wary. Under his leadership, California, and potentially the nation, could descend into widespread chaos. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, click like and subscribe to stay updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.